Hey, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here. Today I'm doing a quick tier list of the CSGO Operation Riptide skins. They added a lot of skins to the game, a lot of which look very good. So I figured I'd just give my opinion on all of them and just how I think they look. So first things first, in the train collection, we have the M4A4 Coalition, which, first things first, I really like gold skins. I think they look really nice. Something like that new AK, or there's like a golden FAMAS skin called like the World Traveler or something from the CS20 collection. Those skins look absolutely phenomenal when they're just fully painted in gold. Something about them just looks really nice, kind of like having a gold camo in COD or something, just beautiful look. This skin gets a bit of credit for having a lot of gold on it, it's like around half gold, and generally looks kind of okay. The black is definitely a good color to complement the gold. But overall, I think this gets easily overshadowed by a lot of the other M4A4 skins in the game, like the Poseidon and the Griffin, and just basically every other M4 skin has a lot more going on, a lot more like personality and uniqueness to it. And this skin has a lot going on, but it's all kind of bland and mediocre. And for that, I'm going to be putting it in the middle, right in the B tier. I don't think it's really that good of a skin, especially for red. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say about it. And next up, we have the Glock 18 Gamma Doppler, which a lot of you probably found my channel by, since I traded up for an emerald and got like 200,000 views or something crazy like that. But in general, this skin looks really good when it's in bright light like this, right? You can see very vibrant colors, very unique looking gun. And when it's an emerald finish, it looks even better than this. But something that a lot of people probably don't know just by looking at it on the main menu is a lot of time you're playing in darkness, so it'll look something like this when you're playing in game, and that doesn't look as impressive, and you very rarely will have a sunny area in the map where you'll see something like this. Most of the time you'll be looking at this, which it's a mediocre skin. It's actually not that good looking. Even with an emerald finish, something like this dark doesn't really look all that good. And this needs a lot of light to look great. So on sunny maps, this thing's like an easy, like even like an S tier, I would say. Even with some patterns like this, it looks beautiful. But since most of the CSGO maps you play indoors or like in fog or something, you'll be looking at this most of the time. And just because of that, I'm gonna actually have to pull this down to an A, even though it is an S tier skin with the right lighting. I personally think it'd just be an A. So the next skins are the pinks in the train collection. So we start with the FAMAS Meltdown, which is known because there's a bug with it well, there was a bug with it where if you use 10 of these and they're straight up, you got a guaranteed Glock Emerald. I never got to use this myself, but that's kind of what it's known for 2 days into the operation. And otherwise, it's known for another unique trait it has, which if you look where my mouse is, you can see there's scratches all over the gun. A bunch also by like the handle here. And this is the best, like this is like a .0 float one, so this is the best possible float, would still have this many scratches on it. And the base weapon skin of just a bunch of yellow nuclear symbols doesn't really look that good either. Maybe if it looked like the back of the gun, but like throughout the whole gun, and it didn't have all these scratches, it would be a solid skin. But this thing just kind of looks beat up all the time, even in the best conditions. And its design isn't really that good. I don't really know what is about it, but I don't really like it too much. So yeah, for that, that's an easy F tier for me. I think it's one of the worst skins in this operation by a long shot. And yeah, off to the next pink gun. So this next one is the Propaganda, and this is, let me say this, a very beautifully crafted Mac 10 skin. Everything on this weapon goes very well with the Mac 10. A lot of it was clearly well thought out, and it all looks really nice. One thing I do notice is it seems like all the patterns are virtually identical. They pretty much all look like this. And it seems like with different wears, you don't have scratches, but it seems like one of those skins where it just gets darker or lighter based on its wear. So because of that, it's not going to be as unique as a lot of the other skins, which I think is something that definitely helps in a lot of skins, where there's like unique patterns you can have. Makes it feel a lot more like this is my skin and no one else has it. But anyone who has a Mac 10 propaganda, it looks virtually identical to other people's Mac 10 propagandas, and you don't really see the difference in float or anything. That being said, it's still a very solid design. I still think it looks very good. Has a lot of obviously propaganda aspects. These eyes here just staring at you give you kind of like a Big Brother kind of vibe. And Yeah, I think it's still pretty solid skin. I'd put it actually above the M4 Coalition. I think it's a very nice looking Mag 10 skin, unlike the M4, which I think only just looks mediocre. And then the final ping for the Train Collection is probably the one most people know, which is the USPS Whiteout. And it's a absolutely beautiful skin. It's clearly very simple. It's literally a white coat of paint just over the entire weapon. Um, but that simplicity for some reason looks really nice. This thing looks beautiful in game, even with something that's min wear. So something weird about the whiteouts, it has to be factory new, or else it looks absolutely horrible. This here is a min wear whiteout that I actually own, and it looks something like this in game most of the time. Something like this, even in dark lighting, it's actually super, super vibrant and just kind of sticks out. And you barely even notice these scratches somehow. And if you had one that was factory new, like the one shown here, which is kind of how I'm judging most of these skins, it would look absolutely beautiful. A lot of very, very noticeable skin. Like anyone who sees this will be like, wow, that's a whiteout. And it just looks really nice. I don't know how to describe why this simplicity looks so nice to me, but I think this is an easy S tier skin. Probably one of the best skins in this entire collection. Even though it is just a rehash of a skin that's been done in other collections with the MP7 and P250 whiteout, it's still definitely an easy S tier, one of the best looking skins in the collection. And then we're off to the purple skins in the Train Collection. So first we have the CZ Syndicate, which is the same as the Coalition. Actually uses like the same little pattern, I'm pretty sure. Not 100%, but it looks like a similar pattern. I mean, if you just compare it, kind of looks like it just takes like the back part of this gun or whatever and just kind of stuck it on a CZ. Especially in comparison to a lot of other CZ skins, this does not look that good. I don't know how the patterns on this one work, unlike the propaganda. So if the patterns can have varying amounts of gold or black, if you could get a full gold finish, it would be beautiful. If you get a full black finish, it'd probably look pretty good, like this like kind of blackish gold area in the back. If you could get that on the whole gun, it'd be kind of good. But as it is right here, I think it's definitely worse looking than the Coalition. Having that intricate design that was clearly designed for the M4 just slapped on here, it doesn't work as well, and I don't know what it is about it, but it just doesn't look as good to me. So for that one, I'm gonna just put it a tier below. Actually, I might even put it in the D tier because it's really toward the low end of these operation skins since a lot of them look so nice. I'm gonna keep it down there, I'm pretty sure. And next up, we have the Op, which is like a comic book type of skin. If anyone knows of the Op Boom, it's kind of like an orange comic book type of thing with like words like boom, pow, kablam, or whatever, right? But this kind of takes more like artistic, like comic book style. Like this kind of the color scheme and a lot of the things that you'll see in like an actual comic book. And it just looks very clean overall. It only affects like the base of the op, nothing on the scope or anything. And it just looks really like nice, very vibrant. You just notice this a lot in game, and it just looks pretty solid. I'm assuming different patterns give you different types of like comic things all over it. It just looks pretty solid. I'd say this is an easy B tier. Definitely not an A tier. It's nothing like super crazy, but it's a very solid looking op skin. So yeah, I'm gonna put it below the propaganda, honestly. I think the propaganda is a bit more well done for the weapon it's done with. And next up, we have the P2000 Space Race. I've used a bunch of these in trade-up contracts, and the reason I think is because it just doesn't look very good. It's maybe for people that like abstract art, this might be something, but I really don't know what this is supposed to be. To me, it just looks like a bunch of random colors all over the place, and then there's this random star in the back and the front. But otherwise, it has a very confusing design. I don't really know what I'm looking at here. I couldn't describe this to anyone if I tried, and it just doesn't look good. So for that reason, I think this is in the F tier pretty easily, but still definitely better than the FAMAS Meltdown. And I might have to go look for a sec to find this thing. There, I think this is it. It's definitely better than the Meltdown. It's really hard to beat how bad the Meltdown is with all its wear, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't have anything like unique or good looking really about it. Yeah, that's all I can really say about that. We have the MP5 SD Autumn Twilly, which just a pretty solid looking skin. It's definitely not like super good looking, super vibrant, very unique or anything, but it's definitely not a bad looking skin. It's a pretty decent looking MP5 skin, but this definitely loses out to other skins like the MP5 Agent, and a lot of the other MP5 skins are a lot better made for the weapon. This just seems like a piece of art that was kind of just haphazardly slapped on an MP5. This does not seem like it was designed with the weapon in mind, and it really doesn't look like too good. Definitely doesn't look bad, but it's just not a very good looking skin in my opinion. I think this is either C tier or top of D. Kind of split on it right now, so I'm just going to put in C tier for the time being, but I might move that later. It's just kind of a mediocre looking skin. Definitely not bad, but just not even close to good. And then our final purple skin is the Nova Red Quartz. And you can see with the right lighting, this thing's kind of like a glowing red skin. And even without that, it kind of has a very nice kind of like literally red quartz is a perfect description. It just looks like a piece of like red quartz, probably wood. And it looks pretty solid, kind of like a copper shotgun, which it's kind of very simplistic, almost like the whiteout. It definitely doesn't have that same kind of clean feel to it. It's very kind of dirty type of skin, but it's all one color, which I think definitely helps its design. It's definitely not as good as like the Coalition, which was a very well crafted M4 skin with the M4 in mind, but just loses out to the other M4 skins. I think this is a decent Nova skin, but stuff like the Candy Apple and stuff where it's just one color, and a lot of the other Nova skins are definitely better. But just being like a copper shotgun is not a bad design, and for that, I'm probably gonna put it at the top of C tier. It's definitely not as good as the Coalition, but it's definitely not a bad design by any stretch of the imagination. The MP5 right there is definitely a lot worse in comparison. And then we have the blues from the Train Collection. So first we have the Sputnik, which if the design differs with each version might not be as good, because I think having that little kind of like Death Star, whatever that's supposed to be, in the back corner of the gun here, that's very good for the design. Being a solid color blue like this is beautiful. One of my favorite skins actually is the Opson and Leo, so I think this looks really nice, being all the same, being all blue to some degree. It's differences between dark and light blue throughout the weapon. It's got a bunch of different little patterns going on throughout it. And honestly, this little Death Star thing in the back looks really nice. If all the skins look like this, it's actually a moderately good Deagle skin. And even if the patterns change, that could mean you get like a full dark blue top or something. And I think that would also look really nice. I think this is just a pretty good looking skin, especially for blue. You can't really go wrong with it. It's not as good as some of the other Deagle skins, but it is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's right after the Coalition, honestly. And considering that's a blue, that's a pretty good ranking for it. I would definitely consider picking one of these up if they end up being super cheap. They just look kind of nice in my opinion. And then we have the M4A1S Fizzy Pop, which, considering it has the name Pop, I think it actually uses the same texture as the AWP. The difference is this doesn't seem as vibrant. It seems to take a lot, it maybe has like a filter applied to it, but it almost looks like the Autumn Twilly. Like it almost has that kind of color scheme, despite definitely using the textures from the Pop AWP. And I think that's a bad thing. I think it makes it look a lot more bland. With the more like yellowish tint to it all, it doesn't look too great. This almost looks like kind of like how 1900 movies are like black and white. This almost looked like the black and white version of like the pop-up, which is not a good look considering one of the main strengths of that skin is how vibrant it is. So this almost looks like the Autumn Twilly more than the pop-up. And I'm assuming this will have different versions, where like different patterns where the comic things are spread out a bit differently. But this does not seem like a good skin. It seems very bland and uninspired. So I'm definitely gonna be putting this in the D tier. No real questions asked on that one. I think it's worse actually than the Syndicate, because at least the Syndicate can probably look nice, and at least it looks pretty mediocre, and definitely stands out a bit more than whatever this is supposed to be. It's just not that good at looking of a skin. Next up, we have the Spring Twilly, which is 50 times more vibrant than this M4. and has a very unique kind of greenish skin on it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at here. It actually looks like it uses the Twilly skin from the MP5, but it has a green tint to it instead of like a dark red, which definitely looks a lot nicer. It also has a white scope, which I think looks really clean, just like kind of how the whiteout looks clean. I think that scope looks absolutely beautiful. If the whole skin had that finish, this would be definitely my favorite scout skin. But having that white scope with a very bright green like base of the skin, a bunch of different things going on there, it actually looks kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why. Just the vibrance of the skin's really good looking. Um, in terms of where to put it, I think it's still a bit worse than the Coalition, but a little bit better than that Deagle we looked at. I don't know why. Just really like how this skin looks. Just very vibrant skin with a lot of things going on. I'm sure with the right pattern, it all will look a lot more unique. And this definitely is a skin that has different patterns. You can just tell from how it looks. And next we have the Og Amber Fade. And the Fade lineup of just normal fades looks really nice, in my opinion. But the Amber Fade, it's just kind of like a shiny copper. I think just for that, it's basically the same as I was describing that Nova. But I think having that kind of added level of complexity makes that Nova stand out a bit more than this one. So I'm going to put it above the MP5, obviously, but I think it's just a bit worse than that Nova by having this dark green here does not look good. If the whole thing was copper, it might actually be better than the Nova, but having this green here is not that good. But the copper just covering most of the gun, you see it glows a lot, and when it's not glowing, it's still a very solid, like bronze-looking color, which you can't really go wrong with. So yeah, that's really what I say about that one. And now we have the UMP Full Stop, which is just a red camo skin, very bland, just red camo. That's all there is really to say about it. Um, I'm definitely gonna say this is bottom of the D tier. It's definitely not an F tier skin. It doesn't look as confused as these bottom tier skins, but is a very bland and uninspired skin. So for that reason, it's just bottom of D tier pretty easily. And next up, we have the Tech 9 Safety Net. Now, I think I have a bug with my game where some skins, including the Safety Net, are a bit more pixelated than most of the other skins that I have. So I probably won't have a fully accurate read on this one. But just being like an orange, it's mainly just an orange gun with a safety net, like an orange safety net. That's the whole design. It's not that good looking in my opinion. I don't really know what it is about it. It doesn't have anything that I can see as being too good to look at in game. It's definitely very unique. Like definitely if you see this, you'll know it's like a safety net because there's not too many super orange skins out there. So that's something positive about it, but otherwise it doesn't really have a good design. Just a bunch of dots on like orange. Uh, I, yeah, I don't really think it looks that nice. Definitely not super uninspired like some of the other ones, but not very good. I think this goes below the Syndicate, but it's definitely still above that M4, which is super bland. And yeah, the final blue from the Train Collection is the R8 Blaze, and this is an absolutely beautiful skin. One of the best skins out there. The Blaze looks really good on revolvers like the Deagle and the R8. And something I've noticed about this one is it can get really low in factory new. I got actually a .0071 myself that I picked up on the Steam market for like 70 cents. And I think it looks really, really nice. It looks pretty good in game too. The only real downside is that's on the revolver, but as its skin itself, I think the Blaze looks absolutely beautiful. It's an easy S tier for me, super classic skin. It's been on the Deagle since the original collection. Not as good as the whiteout, but it definitely fits the weapon a lot. It's kind of like a, fire. As you fire the weapon, there's like kind of the fire coming back at you. And it just looks really nice with the black finish there, and then just really it's all about that fire, which also looks beautiful. It's just a very beautiful looking skin. The only unfortunate part, and the reason this thing will always stay cheap, is it's stuck on the R8, which is a very shit tier weapon. I don't think I've ever seen someone use this that wasn't messing around and kind of just having fun or trying to throw. So just for that reason, this won't be a high tier skin, but in terms of the skin design itself, it is a very, very good looking skin. And yeah, that's it for the Train Collection. Now off to the Riptide one. So first things first, we have the Og Plague, which gives me vibes of like the M4A1S Basilisk, if you guys have ever seen that one. Very cool designs, kind of etched in with metal. I think it's kind of underrated, being made of blue. I think it's a very good skin. I could easily have seen this as like a purple. No questions asked. So let me actually find where this collection is. I haven't looked around too much for this video because I didn't want to have some premeditated thoughts on it. Let's see, we're looking for the AUG. While we look for that, I might as well leave this up. But yeah, it just has a lot of very unique kind of things about it. Very nice metallic design. You can't really go wrong with it. Just looks kind of good overall. And give me a sec to find it. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time finding this. Oh, there we go. Found it. Um, yeah, it's just a pretty nice looking skin overall. Definitely above that MP5, and I'd say the Amber Fade, but I think that Nova Quartz having that kind of dark copper look looks a bit nicer in my opinion, but I can see why some people would really like this. I think the metallic finish looks really good, and a lot of people like this type of gun. So for people that like this type of gun and have like the Basilisk, for example, this is a very nice addition to their collection. Next up we have the Dual Berettas Tread, which seems to have taken from a revolver skin I don't remember the name of, might also be named the Tread. Very kind of simplistic design, just a bunch of like waves of different colors. I do like how the top is like a brown copperish and then the bottom is like a darker blue. Having like a single color for one section of the gun, having like all segregated like that, looks really nice. And these guns just kind of look well crafted. And for that, I actually have to look where I'm going to put them. So, let me find them first. Might be a bit harder. Oh, there they are, I think. It's a really bad screenshot of the skin, but, um, yeah, looking at it, I would say that these skins are, I'd say they're still, just under the AUG skin, that metallic one we just looked at. They've very nice fine crafting to them, but they don't look all that great. If you saw these in real life, this would be beautiful, but since it's in CS, these look a lot worse than some of the other skins in the game. And yeah, that's all that there's to that. Then we have the G3 Keeping Tabs, which has like a hexagon pattern with some kind of red liquid rising up. And that's all there is to say about it. It's almost like the op like Electric Hive, I guess, but just without that kind of vibrance and that singularity or just the type of color. The color scheme is not very good. Having a gray color scheme is always kind of bad. Makes this gun look very bland. And having that red liquid doesn't really look that good. I don't really know what they were going for here, but it's not a good looking weapon whatsoever. Um, so I'm gonna have to find it first, and then I'll be putting it probably just above the UMP, because it's a bit better than just a standard camo skin, but that gray color scheme and general kind of confusing design doesn't really make it all that good. So that's where I'm gonna put it. And next up we have the MP7 Gorilla, which is like an almost like an army style weapon. Very cool designs here. It's like an eagle or bird or something. Being aggressive, has that little army star on it, and just a general color scheme that suggests it's like an army style weapon. Very kind of battle worn condition, but since this is supposed to be like an army camo style weapon, that actually works very well with the weapon. I think this is definitely a very solid weapon, and the people that love those camo style weapons will actually enjoy this design a lot. So for that, I think this actually fits in the B tier. It's not my personal type of weapon that I like to use, but is definitely something I could see a lot of people using. And just for that, I think it belongs up there in the B tier. So next up, we have the PP Bison Lumen. which actually gives me, for whatever reason, the same vibes as the Tread, but with a different, more dark color scheme. The problem here is with this color scheme, it almost just looks like the base weapon. It doesn't even look like you have a skin on it. I would actually, if I saw this in game, I would probably not even realize that someone had a skin. Just very bland. And for that, I think it's actually just even worse than that UMP. Definitely not a bad skin by any means. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but I just barely even can tell what part of this is skinned. It almost just looks like the stock weapon. And for that, actually, I think I might even put it in the F tier. Definitely not anywhere near as bad as the P2000 from us there, which look worse than stock, but it just looks like the stock weapon, which is not a good thing for a skin that you're paying money for. Next up, we have the USP Black Lotus, which has a very nice purplish blue kind of general feel, and just has this beautiful Black Lotus on it. This is a very nice looking skin. The front has a very unique looking silencer. And it's a pretty good looking skin, especially for a blue. I could easily have seen this as like a purple or like a very low tier pink. But it is a very good design, especially for being a blue. And for that reason, I think that alone is enough to put it around the Deagle. I think it looks a bit worse than that Deagle did, but it looks very solid, especially in the USP. There's nothing bad about the skin whatsoever. And it can actually just be seen as a pretty good skin across the board. Very nice purple color scheme. I like it when a skin has just one kind of color theme going on. Doesn't make your eyes kind of distracted by the skin. And the Black Lotus on it looks pretty nice. With the vines coming out, looks even better. So yeah, that's all there is to say about that one. And next we have the XM Watchdog, which is kind of gives me vibes like the Emerald Jade Deagle, if you guys remember that one. Would remind me of something that's made in like ancient China, where they have like these dragon dog things coming out, very copper and emerald, just copper actually overall. Soul skin is like copper, and then the green is like the rustic copper, and it looks very, very clean. It definitely has that same kind of build quality as I was talking about in the Tread, but the color scheme is 500 times better, and the designs on this gun are actually really good. So for that one, I'm definitely going to be putting this as a relatively high tier skin. I'm just going to define it first. I think this is it. No, this is definitely it. It's actually, for me, I think it is an A tier skin. It is just very well made, very well crafted for this gun. And I think it looks better than the propaganda and oddpole and all that. Very, very unique, well crafted skin. Yeah, I just think it's really well made. A lot of very nice looking designs. These like dog dragon things look great, and copper and like emerald are just very nice textures to use. And next up we have the Mag 7 BI-83 Spectrum, which is just one of those skins where they took a bunch of random colors. This one just looks like differently colored cubes. It really doesn't look like that good. It almost looks like someone just went out with a paintball gun and shot different colored paintballs at it, and just ended up with something like this from all the different splashes. Definitely not horrible, but not a very good looking skin, although you would see this in game pretty well because it's very vibrant. I think it's just better than the Tread. Definitely worse than that kind of metallic design that they had on the AUG that we looked at. So yeah, that's really all there's to say about it. A very bland, kind of rainbowish skin. But being rainbowish is good. We have the FAMAS ZX Spectrum, which looks beautiful. Very nice black finish on most of the gun. These kind of stripes through the middle, I'm not sure why those are there. I think without those stripes there, this gun would be a lot better. But having them doesn't really hurt it. That glowing red like dot at the top here gives off kind of like a dark robotic feel. And this whole gun kind of does very, very clean finish overall. And a very well crafted gun. Especially for a purple, this looks beautiful. I could easily have seen this as a red skin or especially a pink. So yeah, it's a very nice looking FAMAS. I'm gonna have to put it probably below the propaganda. It's not as well made as that, but definitely looks nicer than the Coalition and the Pop Op. So yeah, very nice looking skin. That's all I really gotta say about it. Then we have the 5.7 Boost Protocol, which is a nice, mostly white skin with a kind of like mask, like two eyes of like a mask here, and it says like best or boost, I guess. Yeah, I would say boost, but it said best for a sec, which says boost at the front, which is very nice because it goes with the name. You see the protocol in the back. Generally this looks like a whiteout that someone just slapped like a decent design on. The front of this gun looks beautiful with like this little black cutting in here, the motherboard, and then these 3 stars or whatever. They look really nice. I'm not sure if I really like this random like mask design they put here. It doesn't look as good as the rest of it. I think without that, this gun would be 50 times better. As you could see, this full kind of fade up here. The white looks really good. A lot of it's divided very well. Clearly made for the 5.7. I think without this mask, it would definitely been an A tier skin for me. It looks very beautiful. But because that mask is there, it definitely distracts from the skin, and quite a lot at that, since it takes away almost a third of the skin. Um, I'd have to say it's realistically just right around here. Definitely worse than that Nova. Doesn't look as nice, but definitely better than that metallic AUG, in my opinion. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say about it. And now we're off to the MP9 Mount Fuji, which is just a very nice looking skin. It's got the white-ish top. Very nice design. It's really just Mount Fuji. You can see that little circle, which is both the sun and kind of like the Japanese flag. And the color scheme fits it very well. This pinkish blue just would work very well on, and the birds and everything, they just all look very nice. They have very well crafted skin. It looks absolutely beautiful. Definitely one of the highlights of this collection for me. Kind of like the whiteout. And I'd say it's better than the XM for sure, but definitely not as nice as the emeralds, even in that kind of mediocre lighting. The emerald just looks nicer, but this is a very, very nice looking skin. Kind of reminds me of the Daybreak if it used a better color scheme. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about this one. Very nicely made, very nice looking weapon. So next up we have the Spider Lily, which is 50 times better than the Coalition in my opinion. Like I said, this general dark blue finish looks very nice, and the spider lilies are a very like unique looking part of the design. There's a lot of very nice looking parts of this design. I think everything on here looks really well made, and this white handle complements the rest of the gun really well. Just for that, yeah, very solid M4 skin. Definitely better than the Coalition, no questions asked. I'd say it's actually right below the MP9 we just looked at. As that MP9 was just really well made, and this one is just a really good looking one, but not as nice as that MP9 design. And next up we have our first pink, which is the Mac 10 toy box. Kind of takes that kind of graffiti style that they love to use in a lot of skins, even like a dead chicken right there, and just slaps a bunch of random graffiti together, which can look nice for some people. Definitely not my type of weapon, especially when done like this. It seems like a lot of random different designs just slapped together. The color scheme definitely works. There's a lot of white in the right places. A lot of the colors were definitely put in the right spot, but I think the overall design isn't too great. And I think this wear is shown even in factory new. I'm assuming this is what we're looking at is the factory new version. I don't really know. But it's just a kind of messy skin for me. It definitely doesn't look bad, but it's not my type of skin. I'd put it below that Nova, honestly. I think that's a fair place to put it. And off to the next skin, which is the Glock 18 Snack Attack. This kind of like glazed finish on top of all these different nice looking food items and stuff looks absolutely beautiful. They took like the glaze from a donut, put on the outside of the weapon, and then on the inside of that casing, you just have a very like cheerful, almost like a crowd of like fast food just looking back at you. It is a very nice looking Glock, and honestly, I prefer it to the Emerald Glock just because it's a skin that will always look nice regardless of the lighting. You can see this where it is like bright. It almost looks worse when it's bright, and when it's dark, you can see all the different parts of the design. And this casing here, just looking like almost like a glazed donut, definitely really helps the design. They even changed the front of the gun to be red and like the tops to be yellow to get that red and yellow kind of McDonald's style color scheme. Just really makes this weapon be nice and themed and very good looking. definitely one of the highlights of this collection, no questions about it. So let me just go find it real quick. There it is. And yeah, I'm gonna definitely say it's not as good as the White or Blaze, but it is a very, very solid design, a very good contender for one of the best skins in this collection. And next up, we have the Scout Turbo Peak, which just gives that kind of vaporwave style thing off of it. Has that pink and purple that everyone really like, and the colors that you'll see in a lot of those like vaporwave type of videos. And the SSG in the back here, I mean red and black, red, and yellow is a very nice color scheme to go together. It's just a really well-made gun. Clearly, a lot of love was put into this, and it just looks great. Definitely doesn't look as good as the Smack Attack. I don't know why, but it's a very beautiful skin, especially for those people that like those vaporwave type of skins they've been putting out. It's definitely one of the highlights of this collection. It's an easy A tier for me. Uh, it's definitely not as good as Snack Attack. I think it's better than that XM. I might actually have to move this XM down a bit. I'm gonna put it under the propaganda. But I think it is a very, very good skin. Definitely one of the highlights here. Next up we have our red, which is the AK-47 Elite Museo, which seems to be kind of like I think Pablo Picasso type of weapon. The chicken there is definitely very nice touch, and the main part of the gun doesn't look too bad either. But in comparison to a lot of the AK skins, it's like the name, the art itself, it's very abstract, and I don't think that helps it here. It's a very nice design. I mean, this blue here definitely fits with the rest of all the kind of abstract art here. But I don't think it's deserving of a red. I could have easily seen this as a purple and not really questioned it. Definitely not a blue, but I think this is easily a purple more than a red. Very nice looking gun, but not in comparison to some of the other AKs like the Fire Serpent and Case Harden. So for that, I'm gonna have to rank it a bit lower because it's a red that really shouldn't be. Um, I think it fits right above that Coalition. It looks a bit worse than the pop-up, definitely better than the Coalition. And yeah. And our final red from the main Riptide case is the Ocean Drive, which has both that vaporwave type of thing and a very beautiful color scheme. This orange here, I guess it's like an orange ocean, along with just everything about this looks great. I don't know why this looks so good to me, but this just looks really, really clean. The color scheme is great. It's very vibrant, very noticeable, and it just looks good. I think it's a very good looking skin. Definitely one of the better ones in this collection. I don't really know why. I can't describe it too well. But it is definitely, I'd say it is under the MP9. I think this is a very solid place to put it, right here in the middle of the A tier. I think that's really where it kind of fits in. And next up we have the Mirage Collection. So we have our first gray skin here, which is the Drought. And it's actually really good looking for a gray skin. You can see kind of the skull here of something that seemed to have dried up. This whole skin seems very dried up, just like a dried, almost like desert, full of just things that have died from like dehydration, which looks clean. The blue, like I said, like that dark blue, and then the other half is like a whitish gray, and it just fits the skin very well. This is a beautifully made gray skin. Reminds me of the God and Monster gray skins, how they were actually good. Most gray skins are bad, but this one I could easily have seen being ranked higher. It's a very well made skin, a very nice color scheme and everything, and it fits the weapon very well. Unfortunately, it's on a PC50, so not many people use it, but still very well made. If I can go find it real quick. I think this is it. This looks about right. I think this is easily right below that Coalition for me. Very well made skin. I'm surprised that this is a gray. Next up, we have the PP Bison Anolis, which is just like a dark green snake skin. Basically looks like one of those generic camos, even though it isn't. The color scheme and everything about it just make it look like one of those camo skins. Definitely a bit worse than the red color though, because at least with a red camo, it's red, which you don't see in a lot of camos. But it is a very basic camo looking skin. Next up we have the Navy Sheen, which just is that simple dark and light blue together with a kind of leopard pattern almost, from what I can tell. Um, Pretty mediocre looking skin. Definitely really good for a gray. Just a kind of mediocre skin with two different colors that work against each other and with each other at the same time. Makes it relatively solid design. Definitely better than what we just looked at a second ago, but not really like a highlight. I'd put it below that 5.7, just above that metallic Og. I think that's a good place to put it. And then we have the Mac 10 Sienna Damask, which has like a cardboard type color scheme and just seems to be a lot of random vines and flowers. And I think the color scheme really hurts it here. If this was different colors, like let's say the background was like a light blue and then all the vines and stuff were green, I think this would be one of the better skins in the collection. But with this like kind of color scheme, it almost looks like one of those generic camo skins, and from a distance it definitely would look like one. So for that, I'm gonna have to put this as one of the lowlights. It's still better than that Bison, which is literally just looks like one of the camo skins, but not as good as the red looking camo skin. Still generally a bad skin, but that's why it's a gray. And then we have the Scout Prey, which just honestly it's just a striped skin with like a darkish red, very bad looking red in my opinion. Very bad color scheme, very poorly made skin. That's all I can really say about it. Might even take me a minute to find it because it just looks so generic. There it is. It's definitely worse than that Mac 10, but it's not as bad as that Bison. So then, next up, we have the Dual British Driftwood, which, as it would suggest, is just driftwood in the form of dual Berettas. Uh, I don't think that looks nice. I'm sure some people really like the look of driftwood, but for me, it's not really a visually appealing skin. Definitely well made though. I will say this is definitely well made, well designed for the dual Berettas, but it's just not a good looking skin in my opinion. That's all I can really say about it. So let me go find those. There they are. So I think it's a bit worse than that Mac 10 still. I think actually we rate this UMP a bit highly. I think the Mac 10's a bit better. So yeah, that's all I can say about that one. And then next up we have the FAMAS Kali camo, which is literally just the most generic camo skin I've ever seen. That's all I'm even going to say about it. It doesn't deserve more words. It's just a very generic camo skin, although it is a bit brighter, which instantly puts it above the Scout and the Bison, but it's definitely below the well-crafted Driftwood skin that I just happen not to like. Next up, we have the CZ Midnight Palm, which has those like palm trees almost here, and a very nice dark blue purplish finish. I think it looks better than the Syndicate for sure. I don't know why. I really like this color scheme a bit more than what the Syndicate is going on. But if the Syndicate has one of those dark black or is it just black or gold patterns, like I said, then it would be better. But with the current Syndicate, I think it's just a better CZ than the Syndicate. That's all I can really say about that one. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. It's just a nicer looking CZ skin. Not as good as the Twilly for sure, but definitely better than that other CZ, in my opinion. Although a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that one. I can already see that one coming. Except we have the P90 Verdant Growth, which has at least the green vines, but the background is also kind of greenish. I know the color isn't actually green, but it looks really close to that green, so it makes it very hard to see these vines. If it had a more vibrant background, it would look very nice, but since it doesn't, it's just kind of like a greenish skin. It almost would look like camo from a distance, even though it's clearly not, looking at it in game. And for that reason, I think it just goes above those camo skins, but below the very vibrant sand camo of the FAMAS. And next up, we have the USPS Purple DD Fat. Kind of like, for me, I think this is one of those bug skins that's very pixelated, even though it shouldn't be, so I might have a bad opinion here. But with the way I can see it, it's just a nice kind of pixelated, almost like shredded purple USP. It doesn't look as good as the other one that we looked at earlier, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, especially with the camo covering the whole gun. The color scheme at least is nice, I'll give it that. And just for that alone, I think it goes above the safety net, but it's not even as good as the Syndicate in my opinion. And I know a lot of people like the purple DE pad, especially on the op, so I might have, this might be a problem with how my game renders skins, more than the skin itself being bad. Anyway, next up we have the music box, which honestly looks like the Sienna Damask, but just darker, which I don't think helps it here. I think it's just a worse version of that Mag 10, despite being rated higher in its own collection. So I'm going to put it right under that Mag 10, and just leave it at that. Alright. Next up we have the M249 Humidor, which basically just takes the music box and gives it a red tint, which actually just looks worse in my opinion, despite this yet again being a grade higher. I think it's just a slightly worse version of that MP9. So I'm going to put it right after that MP9, right there, right before the red camo, which I think is a very nice place to put this thing. Next up, we have the Scout Desert Blossom, a very nice and defined pink tip, and then a generic sandy background with a few pink flowers on it, which could look nice. I think this flower should have been a bit bigger. I don't really know what else I would improve about this, but it's just not that good looking of a skin. This pink tip is very nice, and the flowers, if you can see them, are good, but this background kind of cracked desert doesn't look very good, so that definitely detracts a lot from this skin. And I'm assuming this is it. I don't actually know. I'm having a hard time figuring out which one it is due to that. I think this might be it, unless I notice something different. I don't see anything with like a defined pink tip from this, so I'm assuming this is it. It's definitely better than this red camo looking ones, but it's not as good as the music box or the Sienna Damask, which actually I think is an underrated skin considering what we've just been looking at. Definitely should not have been a gray. Looking at the purples, we have the Elegant Vines, which is actually pretty nice. It's weirdly dark. If it was a lot brighter, this would definitely be one of the highlights of the collection. Like these flowers here, this red one, the green one, are beautifully drawn. The vines are actually noticeable over the background, which is a more red color. If it wasn't so dark, it'd definitely be a top tier skin, but because of how dark it is, that draws it down quite a lot, since I think the vibrance of a skin is very important to make it distinct. And for that, I'm going to put it above the little graffiti skin, definitely below that Nova, which is very vibrant with the right lighting. Next up we have the Glock Pink D-Pad, which is more pink over purple, which looks a lot nicer in my opinion, and a lot of this is pink. I think if more of the top was pink, it would be a lot higher, which it might be able to, with depending on the skin's pattern or whatever. I don't know. The way it looks now, though, it still looks pretty solid. A lot of pink on the gun, and the rest of it's all a blackish gray, which doesn't look horrible. But it's still... Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to put that there. It's still not as unique as a lot of the other skins we've been looking at. So for that, I'm gonna have to still put it under this Nova, which is weirdly enough like the threshold for what I think are the good skins in this collection. Um, so next up, we have the Og Sandstorm, which looks beautiful. I mean, the red here in the front looks absolutely great. I'm glad it doesn't take from more of the skin, though, because if this red pattern was on the whole skin, it would just be a bland red skin. But having it there just kind of fills the emptiness that would have been the rest of the skin, while letting you focus on this beautiful, kind of just, like, almost like rocky, like, peaks, with then the dust, like, almost like the sky, and the red, glowing sun. Kind of just gives you, like, a deserty type of vibe, but with these very well drawn rocks, and it's just a generally good looking skin that works very well in both dark and light conditions. I think that one's actually very well made, especially for the Mirage Collection, which is supposed to be a more sandy type of collection. I think that definitely helps the skin stand out quite a lot. It's just a significantly better amber fade. So I'm definitely going to make sure it's above the amber fade. I think it's slightly better than that shotgun, but still below that USP. Just because I don't know, I really like that darkish blue thing that they got going on. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to pull down the P250 here. I don't know why I rated it so highly. Just from a distance doesn't look so good. This is the one, by the way, with like the dead bodies, like kind of like dried up in a desert. Definitely better than the pink D-pad here. And actually, I can see why I put that there. I don't know why I was moving it around. It looks a lot nicer than it does in this tiny little screenshot. So I'm gonna keep it there. So yeah, that's really all there's about this Og. We got our pink here, the Oxidized Oasis, which is very expensive because it's using a trade for this thing. But as its skin itself, it's one of those skins that look like that someone just fired a paintball gun at it and got this. It doesn't look too nice. I mean, it's a very nice orange color, I guess, but it in the skin itself, not a very nice looking skin. Um, so let me pull up this thing, and I think it's worse for sure than that USP. So I want to put it above the safety net for sure, but not as high as like the Syndicate and that USP we looked at. Yeah, that's about it for that. Then we have the Fennec Fox, which is a beautifully made Deagle skin. Has that fox covering almost the entire thing. Very well designed fox. And then this cool little like design pattern in the back, where if you look at it from the right angle, almost looks like one of those like dragons you'll see in like those Japanese little like fabrics or whatever. And the front of this gun looks absolutely beautiful. Just everything about this was clearly made with a Deagle in mind, and it was clearly well made. Very nice looking Deagle skin, especially in comparison to most of the Deagle skins we have access to. And for that, I'm going to be putting this one above the propaganda at the bottom of the A tier. I think that's a very nice place for it to belong. It's a very nice looking Deagle skin. There's not many good looking Deagle skins out there. And then the final thing for the Mirage Collection is the Desert Hydra, which is just beautiful. I mean, it has a white finish on every part that isn't being used by the main design. And in that white design, it almost has like scales from like a snake. And then you just have the Hydra here, and those cyan tongues clash very well with like the tan-ish snakes and the red background, and then the orange back here. It's just very well made. Definitely fits the desert theme well. I don't know why this color scheme just fits deserts perfectly, and then it just looks beautiful. This off just looks really nice. Very well designed. The whole thing almost feels like a snake itself, which is a really good, cool design. Especially since it really isn't just a snake, but just the color and everything about it just makes it feel like a snake. Very good skin. For that, I'm gonna have to put this one definitely as one of the biggest highlights of this operation. I think it's still worse than the Snack Attack, but it definitely outshines most of the other skins we've looked at so far. And then the main collection everyone's looking at is the Dust 2 collection. And it's not for most of the skins. The Desert Brush is a generic camo skin, so I'm just gonna put it right at the bottom. And it's also on the R8, just another reason for this to be bad. I think it's worse than that P90 we looked at. Not by much, though. That P90 was not very good. The Desert D-Pet, similar story. I keep clicking the wrong thing. But similar story, just generic camo skin. Probably better than the other P90 this time around. We got the Bleached, which actually uses that same texture as the P250, but since it's spread out on the entirety of a assault rifle, it looks a lot more generic than that P250 did. I don't know why I like that design so much, but it just really fits the P250 and not the bigger gun they just put it on. So I need a sec to find this thing. It's one of those really generic looking skins. That's a G3, I'm pretty sure, so that can't be it. This is the G3. I don't see this thing. I'm assuming. Oh, this is the pink tipped one from before, so I fucked up. So I think that's, yeah, this is the pink tipped one. I think that's where it belongs. And then this is the skin you're just looking at, which honestly is better than those other camo skins, but not by much. Really have to look at it to see the good part of this design, and from a distance, this won't look anywhere near as good as the P250, since the front and back of it are so dirty, it kind of ruins the design. We have the MP7 Prey, which is just like that SSG we looked at earlier, the Scouts are, and it's just generic. It's just a generic skin. It's a bit better than that Scout because at least it covers the entire gun with the design, but it does not look good at all. The sawed-off Parch basically took the Pink Lily, and added a lot more flowers, which actually looks a lot nicer. If those flowers went up for most of the stock instead of just this back part, it would look even better. And having that one little petal at the front is very nice. I'm assuming a difference with design. So if you have more of these flowers covering the whole back portion here, this skin would be a lot better. But without that, I think this falls just under that pink skin because that pink tip just adds so much to the skin. So I'm gonna put it right there. And then next up we have the spalted wood, which basically just looks like driftwood yet again, but with like a waffle for some reason as the mag. I'm not sure what that has to do with the skin. Just looks like they applied that driftwood skin to the AUG and then added a random waffle for the mag. I don't know why that's there. Um, so yeah, it might take me a second to find this one, since it's one of those more generic ones. And this thing doesn't seem to be in order. Um, I don't think I see it at all, so I might have to find it later. And just know it basically be right below these dualies here. It'd be right below those. If I find the skin in 5 seconds, I'll put it there. But otherwise, I'll just add it later. I know what it is. It's the only skin I haven't found so far. All right. And next up, we have the MP9 Old Roots. Very interesting kind of a design. It really just looks yet again like that Mac 10 we were looking at earlier, but it has a much better color scheme to it. Makes it a lot nicer looking. It has basically like the inverted version of that Mac 10 skin, and that makes it look just a little bit nicer. So for that reason, it's going to be just one thing above it. We have the Withered Vine, which just has a lot of dark colors that make this skin just look super confusing and not good. That's all I can really say about it. Very confused skin, not very good looking. So I'm gonna put this one. I think it's below those driftwood skins. I think the driftwood skins are a bit nicer, but in general, that's a very mediocre looking skin. Next up, we have the M249 Midnight Palm, which uses that same design that was on the P250, but with just a bunch more leaves, which I think actually detracts from it a bit, but it's still a decent looking skin at the end of the day. But as opposed to the other CZ, I think this one's right below the Syndicate. Still a bit better than the USP. But yeah, I think that's where it belongs. And then we have the Black and Tan, which is just a generic camo skin. Not sure why this is blue. I guess it uses the Black and Tan instead of the normal camo colors, but it just looks like a camo skin. And I'm assuming this is it. It's kind of hard to tell with how small these things are. But yeah, it's just one of the generic camo skins. Probably just under that P90. That's all I can really say about it. We have the Nova Quicksand, which uses a very unique color scheme. This blue tip of the gun with the little tan bottom looks great. And this back part of the skin doesn't look too horrible either. It's just a bunch of different stripes of kind of the desert colors and then the light blue for some reason, which ends up looking pretty nice. I think if the whole black was I think if the whole back was a light blue instead of this random scratch pattern, it would be a highlight of this collection. But since the back of the skin is just so many different colors that don't go too well together, it's gonna be toward the lower end. So that's just where I'm gonna put it. Definitely better than most of the camo skins and even the safety net. I'd actually put it above that MP5 as well. I think it belongs right around here in the D tier still. Yeah, that's really all I can say about it. And next up we have the G3 New Roots. Just one of those generic skins. Looks like that Mac 10 yet again. Sorry, I keep clicking on that. I don't know why I'm doing that. It looks like that Mac 10 we were looking at earlier. That looks okay, but it looks worse than that Mac 10, so just right there. It's really just a generic looking skin. Does not look that good. The Galil Amber Fade has a lot more copper than the AUG did, so I think just for that, it belongs right above the AUG. I think it has more of that copper to it, which makes it look a lot nicer. So I'm gonna put it right there. And yeah, off to the next one, which is the USP Orange Anolis. Very interesting skin to say the least. Very kind of scaly design almost. A very interesting color scheme. For some reason, this reminds me what I would think like a virus or plague cell look like. but I don't know what else about that I would really say. It doesn't look too good on the skin, but it's very unique design at the end of the day. At least has that going on. I think that puts it right above the safety net, though. I think that's where I'm going to put it. And off to the next one, which is the red DD Pat. And this looks so much better than the other DD pads because the majority of the gun, like this front part and the back, are of one singular red color. And just having the middle being like a bit like glitchy actually looks really good on this skin. I think it looks much better than most of the other DD pads that we've looked at so far. So much so that I think it belongs right above the Coalition. I think it looks a little bit nicer than the Coalition, in my opinion. That's probably a bit controversial, but I think that's where it belongs. Very, very nice looking M4 skin. And we have the Mac 10 case harden, which differs a lot based on the pattern. I think if you get a full blue gem on this thing, it looks beautiful, just like any other case harden. And there's not really much to say that Cam's been said already. And darkness, having a solid blue would look cool. When it's super bright like this, 8 would look beautiful. I think with the right pattern, the skin will look amazing, and with the wrong one, it'll still look mediocre. So for that reason, I'm going to be putting this probably under the Coalition, just barely, but with a blue gem, it's definitely above most of the skins in B tier. I think with a blue gem, it actually fits into the bottom of the A tier, but on average, that won't be what you're looking at, so that's why it's rated where it is. Then we have the UMP Fade, just really clean design, really good looking. That's all there's to say about it. The Fade design is one of the most liked designs in CSGO. Sucks it's on the UMP, but it's still a very nice design. I think it's just slightly better than the Blaze, but still worse than the Whiteout. Definitely one of the highlights of this collection. Putting the Fade on anything makes it look beautiful. I mean, like the Op Fade and the Glock Fade are some of the most desired skins of all time because the Fade just looks beautiful. That's all there is to it. And we have the Death Strike, which looks amazing. It's like a little kind of sandy magic spell almost. The way that the sand is made and all of the skin kind of works up to it. The scorpion is placed perfectly in the middle and it just looks beautiful. I think this could only look nicer, maybe, if the scope was white, but even without that, it might actually look better without the scope being white. This skin is definitely one of the best scout skins out there. It just looks like magical. Uh, yeah, that's all I can really say. It looks just beautiful. By far one of the best skins in this collection. I think either around or above the snack attack. I think it looks a bit. I think it's a bit worse than that op. That op was really well made as well. Made you think of a snake, and this one makes you think of a scorpion. The very very cool, very good design. The rest of the gun also looks like a scorpion. It just works very well. And then the highlight of the entire Riptide collection is this beautifully made golden AK. It's literally a golden AK. That's that's what it is, and that's what makes it probably the best skin. I think this is above the whiteout even. Uh, yeah, I think that whiteout wouldn't even look good on the AK, but gold looks good on anything, and especially this much of it looks really good on the AK, which is like the face of CSGO is the AK. Now you have a golden version of that weapon. It's just beautiful. That's all there is to say. And this little brown pattern complements the gun very well. Because I think a whole pattern of AK, a whole pattern of gold probably wouldn't look good. So having it nice and divided like this really just emphasizes the gold a bit more and makes it super desired. There's a reason. I think the cheapest version of this, like a battle scarred version of this, I think is like 1,200 bucks or something, and that's on launch. These are only going to go up over time. It is one of the best skins in CS by far. And the final operation is Vertigo. So we have this generic skin. Honestly, looks worse than the camos. I think that's where it belongs, right at the bottom. It's just like it's an F tier skin, honestly. I think even that Bison looks a bit better. Not as bad as these finals do. I think they deserve their own tier. The space thing and the little radiation FAMAS, just really bad. This is the same design, but without blue, so it's just worse. That's all there is to it. So let me put that right below the Mac 10, right there. All right. Then we have the XM, which is a lot darker. I think this helps a lot. Like a blackish skin looks a lot nicer, but it still has that really poorly made design. I don't know what design this was attempting to use on all of these skins, but it just does not look good. That the Bison looks a lot better. These are just really bad skins. The framework, on the other hand, looks a lot nicer. This big tan bottom with like the lightish blue looks really nice, and the top doesn't look too bad either. Really well made, like singular or like kind of dual color skin. Uh, Actually pretty good, especially for a tan. I would put it right between the other two CZs. I think it's better than that gold and black, but still a bit worse than the palm, which is like one singular color. We have the dual res oil change, which is just like a scrap metal kind of skin. I feel like this skin should kind of just get scrapped from the game, but it's not as bad as these. I think it's just right before the more bright camos. I think that's where it belongs. Next up we have the Glock Red Tire, which is the same skin pretty much. I really don't know what they were going for with these skins, but it's not good. I think it's slightly better. Uses like a bit brighter colors, but it's still not a good design. Just poorly made. Then the mechanism looks a lot nicer, having this gold like gear, and you can see a lot of the gears on the skin and this little gold stuff at the top. It actually looks a lot nicer than those other ones. It's probably the best version of this design we've seen, but still not good by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's right below this M4, which looked very bland as well. It's not that good looking of a skin, but it's definitely better than its counterparts. We have the Scout Carbon Fiber, which is just like a black Scout. Like, I guess a bit of a stripe pattern, but it's really just like a blackish Scout. 8 just looks solid. You can't really go wrong with it. Not a bad design. Not really that great of one, but it's solid for sure. I would put it actually right below that metallic AUG we looked at. And yeah. And next up we have the Bison Breaker Box. It's just got a bunch of wires randomly scattered on it. It does not look good at all, does not fit the skin at all. I think even the stock Bison looks better. So for that reason, it belongs right under this other Bison in the F tier. And then we have the green laminate AK. Very nice green, like wooded AK. Just solid. Definitely should be a blue, but as a blue, it functions quite well. I would put it right below that 5.7. I think that's where it belongs. And then we have the P90 schematic, white skin that almost just looks like it's scratched up. All these random blue and black designs don't look like designs. It just looks like wear on the weapon. Really just detracts from it. And I think for that reason, it belongs right below the Syndicate. I think that's a good place to put it. The Nova Interlock has a beautiful design. It's one of those dual color skins. It has yellow and dark blue, which are two colors that go very well together, and a pretty decent looking pattern that covers the entire stock, like I was saying in one of the earlier weapons. And it just looks beautiful. It looks really, really good. Definitely really good version, good skin to have in here. It's clearly not on our remaining skins, but I think they forgot to add it to this tier list. But if it was available on this tier list, I would put it at the bottom of the A tier. I think it's better than the propaganda, slightly worse than that Deagle, but definitely one of the highlights of this collection. So just know that's where it would be if it existed. They forgot to put it in here, I guess. We have the Negev infrastructure, which is just a super scratched up skin, but it's a lot brighter than the other scratched up skins in this collection, which this collection does not seem to be very good. So I'm gonna be putting it just probably right below that MP5. The MP5 was a nicer, brighter skin, I guess. But for being a blue, it's definitely a lot better than the MP5 was at a pink, which is only expensive because it's using a trade up for that AK. Next we have the Galil Caution, which, yeah, it's just caution tape as a skin. Yellow and black go very well together. And for that reason, this skin, as simple as it is definitely one of the better ones in here. I would put it right, I'd put it between the M4 Lily and that Scout. It's like Vaporwave we looked at earlier. It's a very basic design, yes, but it just looks good. Especially with the way the Galil fires, it really is kind of like a it almost just like feels like you should use this weapon with caution. It just works well with the skin. And then we have the Prism Terrace. Now this skin, if you just look at like a screenshot of it, you won't see why it's so good. It just looks like a pretty generic, like prismic, I guess, design, which is why Prism's in the name. But when you move it around, it just changes colors rapidly, and this is very noticeable in game. I saw someone having this, looks beautiful. This is one of the weapons I want to actually get my hands on. Luckily, it's a purple, so I might have a chance at actually getting it. It just looks really good. I think this is really one of the best Mag 7 skins in the game, if not the best, because of this cool rainbow thing it has going on, where it changes colors, and the design itself isn't even that bad either. The prisms on the Mag 7, for some reason, actually look kind of good, with all the squares and stuff found on the weapon. Definitely one of the best Mag 7 skins out there, and this is one of the skins I know I'm going to pick up at some point, so... Might count as market manipulation, but I think it's just slightly better than this Deagle. Still worse than this MP9. Had a lot of thought put into that MP9. It looks really, really good. But this weapon looks beautiful, especially with the rainbow thing. It's very unique to this weapon. I don't remember too many weapons having stuff like this. One of them being the Negev Ultralight, I think, is one that has it. Just looks good. That's all there's to say about it. And the Digital Architect seems like it tried to pull off what that Mag 7 did and failed horribly. The bright green here used on the skin definitely helps it stand out, but the rest of it almost looks like just wear, almost makes it look battle scarred even in factory new condition. And for that reason, this skin has to be pulled down quite a lot, and I would say it belongs right above its counterpart of that random Rainbow Mag 7 that doesn't have anything good about it. This P250 kind of hits me with the same kind of vibes. Then we have the 5.7 Fall Hazard, which is interesting. It has a very unique design. This guy at the bottom is kind of cool, give him that. But the rest of this is just a bunch of random words with different color schemes. It just looks like a mess to me. It's one of those kinds of skins. Maybe it's good for some people, but for me, I think it's just slightly worse than the Syndicate. Probably a bit better than that P90, which just looked scarred. But yeah, it doesn't look that good. And we have the Hazard Pay, which is like if you took the Caution, made it a bit brighter, and got rid of all those black stripes for Caution. It just looks good, man. It almost looks as good as that Golden AK, except it doesn't have the gold color. It uses a bright yellow, which is just about as good as you can get without being gold. And it even has some of that caution tape on the corners and edges of it, which actually kind of help the skin, and the rest of the skin looks very cool with all these X's here, and just everything about this is a very, very clean version of the rifle skin, and it even has an extra little traffic cone that I didn't even notice right at the top. It's very, very well themed skin and very well designed. Definitely one of the better skins in this collection. I think it's yet again just slightly under that MP9. That MP9 was very well made. Everything above it's even better made somehow, which is kind of impressive. And that leaves us with our final skin, which is the M4A1S Minute Danger, which kind of looks like this thing, but has a lot of random words, but the words kind of fit better. This danger covers the entire middle. There's like some guy doing something he shouldn't be doing, a lot of warnings, the notice, like everything at least is segregated into its own section. Every single word fills up only one portion of the gun. It's a lot less random. This whole thing in the bottom right here with the guy with the top hat and the green, if the skin looked more like this, it would be really good, but otherwise, this looks like someone just took a bunch of different warning signs and slapped it on a gun and thought that would be good for some reason. I don't think it's that good. I think it's actually the worst skins in the entire collection. I'm gonna put it right below that Nova. That's where I honestly think where it belongs. And yeah, that is the tier list of every single Operation Riptide skin, in my opinion. These two honestly belong in their own tier. Just like don't get. Oh, this should still be F tier, but this is just like the don't get tier. And these two weapon skins in particular are so bad they're on their own whole new tier lists. But otherwise, that's really it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I might do more tier lists of the other operations in CSGO if this one gets a lot of support. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.